Professional Bowlers Tour. Today, not far from the shores of Lake Erie, we bring you the $150,000 Cleveland Open. Let's meet today's finalists. In fifth place, a 12-time champion looking for his first PBA title since 1986, Steve Cook. In fourth, a man yet to win a title, but has earned nearly $600,000 from Houston, Pete McCordick. One of 8 two-time winners in 1987 from Tampa, Tom Kreitz. The 1985 Player of the Year, a great champion from Indianapolis, Mike Albee. Making his first appearance of his career in a television final, our tournament leader, Andy Nair. That's our field of 5 for today. 7 inches tall, 265 pounds. He is powerful. First shot. It's coming up a little high, leaving the 2-4 on the left lane of this championship pair, where have a composite average for the 5 pros of 225. Bo?
225 is fabulous, the highest of the year, Chris, and we expect a lot of good scoring today. 3 left-handers in a championship round. Lanes 21 and 22 here at Buckeye of a 40-lane bowling center.
Nice and smooth. Consistently shooting spares is one of Steve's big traits. In fact, all the pros do it extremely well. Now, here he is, a man who has won nearly $600,000 without a PBA victory. 34-year-old Pete McCordick of Houston. All right, that's one.
Well, Chris, we remember Pete McCordick as a familiar profile that we're coming up and seeing here as the man who shot the 4th 300 game in American Broadcasting Company television history of the Professional Bowlers Tour. Just an ideal style, 4-step delivery, extended follow-through. Can't do it any better. 10 pins in the pit.
Looks in great condition. This is the very first game. As you just joined it, it's McCormick and Cook who's up now, to be followed by Tom Kreitz, Mike Albee, and then another non-winner named Andrew Nair of Milton, Pennsylvania, 22-year-old dynamo from the left side. On the right lane now, Steve Cook, trailing by 10. Second frame. So it's a 7-pin for Cook.
The big guy, the biggest player on the Professional Bowlers Tour. As Chris, you alluded to, 6 feet 7 inches tall. Look at the high backswing, the cupped wrist. He's poised and ready to drive down through that shot. Very important for a tall player to get low at the line. Look how well Cook does it. Unfortunately, a solid 7. He'll use a cross-lane technique, a lot of speed, more than 20 miles an hour.
Cook marking with 2 spares, McCordick with a double. Capacity crowd here. I think each year that we come to Cleveland, the size of the crowd larger, if that's possible. They're stretched out off to our right a great deal. Not sure if they can see a lot, but we do have monitors stretched throughout the bowling establishment to help them enjoy it further. Firestone champion, United States Open titleist as well. Okay, McCordick back up now. He has a double shooting in the 3rd frame, first game. Now McCordick has 3. Earlier we asked him about the changes he's made this week in his game.
Well, during the 2-week break, I practiced quite a bit. We had a regional over the weekend, My brother spotted that I wasn't squaring up with my target. I've been really concentrating on that this week. I think it's made a big difference. He beat me there, but I'm going to be after these left-handers today.
Okay, Pete McCordick, a 34-year-old from Houston, father of two. High hit, though, and we have the 3-6-10.
McCordick just a little bit too slow on that shot. He was sending the ball out between the first and second arrows. Hit it in the right zone, but then he lets the ball slide up high, leaving the 3-6-10 spare. And once again, he said something about his brother in his interview. His brother is a pro and is a left-hander. A lot of players don't like to bowl against left-handers.
Oh, chops the 3-6 off the 10. It's an open after 3 in a row. Cleveland, Ohio area.
Chris, a high-scoring lane surface. A couple of things to note here. Number one, the first 16 feet of this lane has a low-friction type lacquer on it. Then there's a higher friction type lacquer down in this area. Also, the lanes are oiled about 25 feet here. Then the oil is buffed down to about 48 feet. Then it's all dry down here. Both lanes identically the same. That same type of pattern. Low friction here, medium friction here, high friction at the back end. That's what makes the high-scoring lane condition we have here at Buckeye.
Okay, Steve Cook now up. McCordick with an open frame. Now with a strike up, he can take the lead. Steve Cook, fourth frame. Most champions do that. They jump on an opportunity. So it's a 4-pin lead by Cook from California, Roseville, as a matter of fact. His wife and 2 of their 3 children are here watching, Stacy and Jill.
The man who is a nationally ranked archer, as you looked at the daughter of Steve Cook there on the right and his sister-in-law on the left. That's Mike Alvey's wife, Tammy. Now Steve Cook up 5th frame, leads by 4, can extend his lead over to McCordick to 14 with another strike.
And there, of course, is Candy, Steve's wife, who with his brother-in-law, Steve, has won 2 doubles championships with Mike Albee, whom you'll see later, the number 2 position. Cook in number 5. Pete McCordick, at whom we're looking now, in number 4. Kreitz in 3. And Nair, the tournament leader. Beautiful comeback following a disappointing open frame for McCordick. 27 to the winner, 14 for second, third, 8,000, 6,500, and 5,500. Good paydays.
The key lane for McCordick, the left lane, as you look at him putting his hand and setting himself on the approach, getting himself ready, playing a trajectory between the first and second arrows. He must keep the ball speed up. A strike here would cut Cook's lead to just 4 pins.
And a 10-pin on the left lane.
The ball did not come in quite solid for McCordick. The ball looks like it's in good position, driving. The 6-pin, the second pin on the right-hand part of your screen, fails to jump up and knock the 10 out. And really, that's only been the difference between the left-handers and the right-handers in this particular bowling center. The left-handers have been able to carry that 7-pin. The 10-pin has been tough for the righties.
Pete McCordick, with a $100,000 bonus for a perfect 300 game, earned $156,476. Here is Steve Cook, last year earning, and this is low for him, $21,815. Career total of nearly $600,000 to go along with his 12 wins.
Cook, who made the championship round by just 1 pin. Very good break. Tony Marisi in the very final shot of the 42-game tournament needed a strike to knock Cook out, left a solid 7 and a solid 9 pins in the last 2 frames. Cook, the benefactor, has a chance to take a big lead. Ooh.
And a 7-pin. Steve Cook, he has a new incentive.
Well, I got a new daughter that was born 4 months ago, and it just gives me an extra incentive to come out and work harder and, you know, help support the family. So I'm looking for a big year in '88, and this will be a big start if I win this tournament.
What a doll.
4-month-old Kristen. Like that microphone, Chris.
Future sportscaster.
Cook with the conversion, the 7-pin here in the 6th frame would lead by 13.
All right. Get an idea of some of the speed, the result of that 7-pin hitting the deck. Wow. 6-7, 265. Winner here today will get $27,000. Two non-winners.
Cook putting that rosin on the bowling ball. Point of interest there, or actually a rule, you must wipe off anything you put on the outer surface of a bowling ball. As you look at Cook with that semi-fingertip grip using a urethane ball. Leads by 13, 7th frame.
And the winner of 2 major championships, the Open and Firestone, will be back.
National champion Tommy Kreitz, who, by the way, will be heading down to Mike Ducat's Imperial Lanes right from here, 120 miles, to start warming up for the national championship, which will be shown on ABC next week, 3 o'clock Eastern time. Tommy Kreitz.
And that telecast to be preceded at 2:30 by Make That Spare. You're right. Earl Anthony, Brian Voss, Walter Ray, Williams Jr. in that exciting competition. Okay, Pete McCordick of Houston had a spare up in the 6th. The strike now in the 7th, trailing by 13. He needs to double here to cut that lead to 3.
McCordick had a little bit of trouble on the left-hand lane. He starts with 3 strikes, then left the 3-6-10, which he missed in the 4th frame. Came up a little bit light on the adjustment in the 6th frame, left the 10-pin now in a critical spot. Needs to throw a double to close that lead of Steve Cook's down to just 3 pins.
All right. Coming through in the clutch is McCordick, just as he did at Gable House in Torrance more than a year ago with a perfect 300. Here's a front view.
Front view, and watch the angle of Pete McCordick between the 1st and 2nd arrows. Rolls that ball over there. That's the angle that will give you maximum scoring. If you can play that angle in most houses, gives you control of the pocket and still a good strike shot. Look at the good follow through. But now here's Cook up. Lead cut to just 3 pins, 8th frame.
Final last year, and that was a True Value Open in Indianapolis, Steve Cook.
He's in. Excuse me, Chris. He's indicating a re-rack when you see a player come down like that. And Bob Benoit, 129,000 on the power of that 300 game he bowled at the Quaker State. Some of the other top players, Mark Rothbach, Roger Bowker, did not compete. And here's the positions of the 5 players today. None of them have made the championship round so far this year. Somebody will make a major increase in their money earnings for the year. Now Cook up 9th frame, leads by 13, can make it 23.
We have seen that, including his Firestone victory in '81 when he strung 10. And all powerful, powerful shots.
Agreed, Chris. I think, you know, they talk about the 300 games of Benoit and McCordick that you and I have seen, but I remember that game that Cook bowled at 287. I think that is really one of the most memorable games ever bowled at the Firestone. Now, here's McCordick. Needs a strike.
And gets it. Strangely, but gets it. A little high hit, but they're down. Strike in the 9th.
Here's a key shot. Watch the action of the 2-pin. It's going to the sideboard. It's going to take out the 4 and 7 pins. When a player can do that, especially with the power that these pros have, they will always score very well. When they have no fear of the nose, they'll keep that ball wide. And now McCordick has a chance to get right back in the match. He leads by he trails by 13, can cut the lead of Cooks to 3 with a strike. 10th frame.
Oh, my. You heard him say, oh, my. Such a smile. The man that received the Tour Times Special Achiever Award.
What a terrific break. We saw him trip the 4, and now he trips the 6. Once again, he knows it's so bad that it's good, Peter. It's a line drive and a box score. Now he can take the lead for the first time since the 2nd frame right here, 11th frame. He has the lead, Chris.
A right-hander. On top at the moment. This is our first match, the winner to meet Tom Kreitz, then Mike Albee, and followed by Andy Nyer of Milton, Pennsylvania, our tournament leader. First TV appearance by young Andy Nyer.
McCordick almost seems apologetic at getting that great break in the 11th frame. He can now win the match. 2:42 game. That will make Steve Cook get a strike.
Big scores as Bo predicted on this championship pair, and that's a 242 for McCordick with 9 strikes now. Here's Cook.
Cook needs a strike in the 10th frame, this ball, to win the match. If he does not strike, he loses.
Sounds so final.
It is.
Yes.
Cook knows it. He's going to lean on it. What a shot!
Walking, running that out, and a tough break for McCordick. McCordick still looking for that first PBA win after a great career.
Look at the position of the ball out on about the 3rd board. Trust he did. Put all that power, 6 feet, 7 inches, snap that wrist. Watch his reaction. Took a little look back at his wife, Candy. Says, little money in the bank here, sugar. Just keep it in the building, Steve. You got a winner. He'll go against Tom Kreitz.
5,500 for McCordick. All right, now the fans starting to warm up here. He'll be in the 250s. He meets Tom Kreitz of Tampa, Florida, after this message. He has often been referred to as the closest thing to an assembly line in sports, because day in and day out, week after week, the Pro Bowler is on the road more than he's at home. His mornings start off the same way as they have since the tour began, with the roll call in the paddock. For 10-year veteran of the tour, Steve Cook, who just won, it is as familiar as a big neighborly hello.
The estimate for the cut is 220 over. However, don't trust me. Get all you can get.
Well, the first thing I do when I come into the paddock is usually, get my hand taped up and my thumb fixed up, because I have a tendency to rip a little bit.
Who's this one? Nice catch, guys.
I loosen up a little bit and just get kind of in the mood to go out and, and start bowling. There are days that I just don't feel like going in there and doing it. If you bowled bad the day before, you got to come back and bowl the next day. Come on. This is what I do for, to make my living. It's not the same thing as bowling league. It's different out here. Every shot means, a paycheck. And if I don't get a paycheck, then I don't feed my kids. And if I don't feed my kids, then I got to quit bowling and get another job.
We got married like 3 months before we went on the tour. So I've basically been out with him all the time. The people out here are almost your friends more than the people at home, because you're not home enough. So this is, I come out and see all the wives and their new babies, or, the kids as they're growing up, and you get to know all these people, and they, they're almost the neighborhood. You do get burned out. By the end of the year, I'm thinking, I don't want to see another bowling center. But by January, I'm ready to go again.
It takes me about $800 to $1,000 a week to come out here and bowl. But, for me to break even for the whole year, I got to make somewhere between $60,000 and $65,000. Last year, I had a real bad year, and I only made 21, so it hurt me quite a bit. But the year before, I made 115, and I've consistently been up in the 70s and the 80,000s for the last 7 years.
Do you see the semi-can? Was that scaring you? Okay. Come on, we're having fun. Just another day on the road.
Well, it's the big thing there is the family. Of course, if I went in a motel room, it would be ridiculous with 3 kids and my wife in a motel room. That would be even worse than a 35-foot motorhome.
In California and most states, you can home teach your own children. But the more I do it, the more I've learned about my children, their personalities, plus the one-on-one situation. They get so much more attention than they get at school. Actually, they usually end up a little bit ahead of the class, because we can move a lot faster.
I think I'm lucky. I'm lucky to be able to do what I want to do and be able to do something that I enjoy doing. Can't beat it.
Now I've got heartaches.
Okay, heartaches by the dozen. Willie Nelson's on the road again. It all fits. Tom Kreitz has moved in now to challenge the man who was featured in that up close and personal. And we're talking, of course, of Steve Cook. Tom Kreitz 6-year PBA member, 3 titles, including the PBA National Championship in '86 last year. Steve Cook's opponent, Tom Kreitz, won 2 titles, Showboat and the Budweiser Tour Players in Detroit.
Steve Cook off that energy of that first big game. We'll see what he does with Kreitz.
In the first game, Pete McCordick, who had a 242, also had 9, so we had 18 strikes in the first match. 258 to 242, and now here's a look at the 26-year-old from Tampa, Florida. Very businesslike, a tremendous athlete, 6-footer, 170 pounds.
You're right, Chris. He has just a beautiful style. He's a good winner. Tom Kreitz keeps getting better and better out here on the Pro Bowlers Tour. He's been on a tour. This is being his 4th year. 4-step delivery just by the textbook. Very deliberate. Opens his hands slightly. Good long slide. Tremendous extension. High follow through. And more we're seeing the education of the junior leagues and training classes around the country reflecting the quality of player on the Professional Bowlers Tour. This young man came out with some good credentials, and he's just improved upon them.
Got a re-rack on the left lane where he's poised now, moving to the line. In our second match, he goes against first game winner Steve Cook.
Some players feel a little bit uncomfortable bowling against a left-hander. I remember when I was playing baseball, everybody I saw was a right-handed pitcher, and then the first time you faced a lefty, even though you're supposed to have an advantage, you felt a little peculiar. And I think some of the players out here feel a disadvantage or a little bit uncomfortable bowling against a left-hander. Kreitz not watching Steve Cook.
A shaky 7-pin for Steve Cook with 12 victories. He's won only 1 championship from the number 5 position where he's starting today.
The same position his ball looked like in the 10th frame when he threw that clutch strike to defeat Pete McCordick. Not to be here. The solid 7, the 4-pin just flies around it. Cook has left 2 other 7-pins in the first game. Used the cross-lane technique, broken wrist, extra speed, converted both very easily. That's what he'd like to do here to start the second match.
Well, at the top we mentioned returning from Calgary, and we can't say enough for the friendliness of the Calgary, Alberta people. What impressed me most is the number that watched the Professional Bowlers Tour telecast. An attaché for the U.S. Olympic team from Canada, Ivan Yule Hansen, one of the great bowlers up there, so I hope we get a tour stop on the winter tour in that country.
Be nice. I know there are some very nice bowling centers in Calgary. We also filmed the Bowling Tips of the Week this year in Toronto, Canada. A lot of fans north of the border.
All right. Steve sort of applauding that one. A little in doubt, but it gives him a strike in the 3rd.
Tommy Kreitz started very well with an excellent shot in the first frame, rolled the ball just a little early in the second frame, was happy to get that double. Carefully sets himself on the approach. When you don't have to throw the ball very hard on the Professional Bowlers Tour and the lanes are a little bit slick, this man is a man to contend with. He's been tougher and tougher each year.
Oh, shaky it was. We had a chance to talk to Tom, asking him about his changes that he's made to improve his game this year.
Well, I've made a lot of little changes, but I feel that the biggest change and the most important one is shortening my approach, which gives me a lot better rhythm and allows me to do a lot more things playing outside around between the first and second arrow. Definitely better than I used to be able to. That's the biggest change.
Good communicator.
Very much so, and that's the line he's playing today. Between the first and second arrows, he has 3 strikes in a row.
And it ends at that point, leading the 2-5. Tom was one of 4 with 300s this week. Mike Albee, Andy Nair, and Jimmy Pritz Jr.
Sliding by the head pin, Tom Kreitz sends the ball just a little bit tight. He actually pulled it. The lower surface friction in the center of the lane held the ball back. Broke bound the 2, 4, and 5/8 spares. pins, leaving the 2-5. A little bit easier spare. He needs this to maintain his lead.
All right. Good tight battle here in our second match. We'll be back. Championship. Maybe he'll do it next week. He has doubled here now, cutting Tom Kreitz's lead to 8 pins. So with 3 in a row here, he could lead by 2. Second match. First match was won by Cook over Pete McCordick, 258 to 242. 9 strikes each. Seven.
Just a pull by Steve Cook. He looks down the lane. You just have to forget shots like that. You know, a little bit of a smile on his face, a wry smile to say the least, as he breaks up the 4-6-7-10 split, leaves the 4-7. That's a good break. When things are going your way, you don't get a split on a major mistake like that. You have a fairly simple spare. He needs this conversion, and he would still trail Tommy Kreitz by 10 pins through 5.
And Bo, as you indicated, the return of Make That Spare next Saturday at 2:30. That's the difference, making the spares between the star and the average bowler.
Very much so. And interesting spares have you the 2-4-5-8, the 4-5, the 1-2-7-10. We also have the key spare, which is the 5-7, which will be the championship spares. They'll all be inverted for a left-handed player, such as Earl Anthony.
The 9 for one of the up-and-coming right-handers in all of bowling, Tom Kreitz.
Here's a hit, Chris, that we see a lot now. Now watch the ball as it goes through the 1 and 3 pins and does not deflect. It carries right through and does not take out the 9. A ball's supposed to take out the 1, the 3, the 5, and the 9. It leaves the 9 pin right there, and that's a shot we see more and more often with the urethane bowling balls on today's lane conditions with plastic pins.
And yes, that is an open frame, a miss on the 9.
Just really a mental mistake. Tom Kreitz could sit there 1,000 more times and make this spare. You have the circumference or the diameter of the bowling ball, Chris, which is a good 9 inches, and a bowling pin 4 inches. You have plenty of margin of error to make a single pin spare. Kreitz dug his own ditch so far. He trails by 2, would have had a 9-pin lead with that conversion. Now he's up in the 6th.
In the first game against Steve Cook, bounded back from an open. So now it's Cook back up in the 6th frame with the spare working. You just joined us. The winner of this match will go against 13-time champion Mike Albee, and then against non-winner, our tournament leader, Andy Nair.
There's that thumb that he, as we say, doctored up on the Professional Bowlers Tour. Some cotton and clothing. He's ready to go. Has the lead.
Cheers to Steve now coming off to our right as he strikes in the 6th frame.
What we say of patching your thumb, some people like to call it new skin, the generic name for the equipment that is available for pro bowlers and amateurs is codeine. Clodian, I guess I got my drugs a little mixed up there, Chris. Clodian is it?
Well, as long as other people don't get them mixed up.
Well, we'll let that one slide. Now, Tommy Kreitz, not watching Steve Cook, who leads by 2, can extend to 12 pins, 7th frame.
Ooh, and there is a 7. All kinds of reaction from Steve today, Bo.
He seems pretty lighthearted out there. He gets that first match under his belt with a clutch strike. Then he has the opportunity of watching that nice little up close and personal done by ABC. And finally, he seems very relaxed, and that's a good way to go through 4 matches. If you pressure yourself too much, often you falter somewhere in the 90-minute segment. Needs a spare to maintain the lead.
Halfway point of our second match, our live telecast from Buckeye Lanes in the Cleveland, Ohio area will
beat this week, Walter Ray Williams Jr. bowled and got a check this week, Bob Benoit. And here's the averages of the players in our championship round today. Kreitz, who's on the approach at 212, is the highest of this quintet in the championship round today. Now, Kreitz trails by 2, needs a strike to take the lead. 7th frame.
Titles last year has the lead by 8. Second game.
There's a couple of forces that come into play in professional bowling, and one of them is the speed of the ball and the angle of attack. If this ball had been thrown just a little bit harder, the 6-pin would not have bumped the 10-pin out. And as you watch Tom Kreitz, very deliberate, open-handed release, tucks that arm swing down underneath, plays between the first and second arrows. He has the lead by 8, can extend to 18. He's up on the left lane, 8th frame.
Looked like it was going to be a light hit, but it increases Tom Kreitz's lead with the 3 in a row to 18.
Kreitz with that medium speed is carrying all the hits, as you said, Chris. He carried the 10 out there in the 7th frame, bumped the 6 out into the 10, then he rips the rack there in the 8th frame. He has gone from 2 pins in the rears to 18-pin leads. Cook now comes up the 8th frame, has a spare working, needs to get some strikes.
A 6. Wanting that one badly and jumping up and down at the line was Steve Cook.
Something with Steve Cook, as you cut right through the middle of the pins, avoids the split, is that in the last year or so, and if he's watching this championship round or at least recording it on his VCR that he can look at, he's getting a little bump in his arm swing and causing an occasional pull. We saw him pull the ball high in the 5th frame. Once again, he pulls it high in the 8th frame, and that's caused by the top of his swing bouncing out a little bit and cutting across his body.
All right, Steve Cook continuing to march. Whereas the leader, Tom Kreitz, had an open frame in the 5th, but bounced back with 3 in a row to lead by 19. Our Old Spice tip of the week with Nelson Burton Jr. features this fact: knowing your bowling foul rules. It's very important.
Yes, indeed. In fact, we saw that come in question in the tournament in Venice, Florida, when we saw a player apparently going over the foul line, and came a very interesting scenario. Now, Steve Cook, 9th frame, trails by 19, needs some strikes.
Gets them all but the pesky 7 that has plagued him today. Looking skyward for help, looks back to Candy for moral support.
Watch the break that Steve Cook gets right here. The 3-pin will go to the sideboard, kick out the 6-pin, and avoid the 6-7 split, which would have just taken him right out of the match. Gets the break, needs to make the 7-pin. He still has a chance. Conversion here, he would trail by 20 pins with just 1 frame remaining.
This is our second match as we look at Candy Cook.
For Tom Kreitz, he has the match in his destiny, really. He has it under control. He is working at a 2:26 pace. If he spares strikes in the 9th and 10th frames, Steve Cook, the best he can do is 2:16. So for the job in front of Kreitz, it's just 2 marks. He needs a mark in the 9th and 10th frames. He would be the winner.
Great form. Time tested, yet he's only 26 years old. He has strung 4, and his lead is now 30.
Great match game player. Tom Kreitz was the match game leader here as he won 15 of 19 matches as he jumped from his position of qualifying 8th in his first 8-game match. He dropped to 13, then went up to 6th, and then qualified 3rd. He won 15 of his 24 match games, the best by anybody in our field today, and he has Steve Cook on the ropes. Any kind of decent count, and he's the winner. That's lockjaws right there. That's a winner right there.
Tom Kreitz, who won 2 titles last year in singles competition, television, was 3-0. 3 wins, no losses. Tough.
I agree, Chris. He takes his time without really working on the nerves of the other player, but he doesn't make too many mistakes. You see how he came right back from that single-pin, 9-pin miss in the 5th frame, came back with 4 strikes, and that is the key to victory.
So Tom Kreitz will go against Mike Albee. We're going to our Old Spice tip of the week. Here it is. It's with 7.
And today's Ask Bo question goes something like this. It says the average field, 160 players. So look at the average game. This is every player, 215. Wow. The best score of the year to make the top 24, 225. And let's look at some of the other finishers as we had 53 cashers, 24 finalists. Tony Morisi missed by 1 pin. David Rosenberg, Jeff Bellinger, Roth back in there. Brian Voss, he'll be in Make That Spare next week. Steel Smith, Mazza says hi to his coach in Detroit. George Branham, Jimmy Pritz back on. Holman, Huey Miller, the runner. Norm Duke, who won this tournament. Ted Hanna's Johnny Petraglia, one of the great players of all time up there. Parker Bone, Rod Pasteur, David Husted, and Thomas Jordan III round out the top 24.
Okay, well, one brother-in-law has been eliminated. That's Steve Cook, as he and Mike Albee married sisters, Tammy and Candy. Mike Albee steps in to keep up the hopes of the left-handers here at the Cleveland Open as he goes against Tom Kreitz, who won over Cook 230 to 216 with 7 strikes, leaving them.
So now, as we go into the semifinal match, it's the great right hope, that being Tom Kreitz against 2 lefties left, Mike Albee and untested Newer in the #1 spot. So here's Albee. He's tough.
13 titles. Twice PBA national champion, player of the year. A native of Indianapolis, Indiana, whose biggest thrill last week was receiving an Islanders NHL hockey jersey from the team. He loved it. What a hockey fan. He and Mark Roth.
Has a special room in his house for all sports memorabilia in the Indianapolis, Indiana area. Now Kreitz, fresh off a victory over Steve Cook.
Precision. 26-year-old Tampa, Florida professional. Member of the PBA for 6 years. Jumping from 5th to 3rd here in this championship. One of the 4 300s, 2 of them in this game, Albee and Kreitz. The other, Jimmy Pritz, and our tournament leader, who will be up next in the next game, Andy Nair. Off with the double, the right-hander. Now let's see what red-shirted Mike Albee can do. His 13 titles has won 7 from the tournament leader position, or the #1 position. He's in #2 today. Last win was in 1986.
Last championship round on ABC left 6 7-pins in the Firestone to lose to Pete Weber.
So we're all even after 2 frames, 4 strikes.
Mike Albee, a familiar profile, 4-step delivery, deliberate push away, kind of cupped wrist at the top of his delivery, tries to square up that right shoulder, drives through with that pivot foot, good extension, good follow through, kicks the 7-pin out. That's been his nemesis in the championship round in the last year or so. If he can continue to do that, he's going to be very, very tough. He was my pick before we went on the air, Chris. He was striking every single ball. But then again, he's got a toughie in Tom Kreitz.
Really coming up high, and he has left the 2-4 on the left lane. Mike Albee won the first of his 2 PBA national championships in his rookie year. Well, here is a young man getting up now, Tom Kreitz. His very first victory was a PBA national championship. Albee 27, will be 28 March 25th.
At least keep this match even. If Kreitz does not convert this, Albee will have the lead.
Watch how he attempts it. Too much ball on the 4-pin, and it's
approach quickly. He has allowed 15 seconds to initiate his approach towards the pins. He only takes really about half of that time. Very deliberate, tremendous concentration, very seldom seems flustered. But right now here in the 4th frame, he trails by 12.
All right, bouncing back beautifully after an open frame with that strike. More of Mike Bold in the 4th. He left the 7, marked with a spare. He is up 11, shooting in the 5th frame against Tom Kreitz, who won the previous game against Steve Cook. Or 7.
The left-hand lane has been the troublesome lane for all the players today, both right-handers and left-handers. It was the unline, and it caused them to pull the ball inside that second arrow.
Back-to-back spares for Mike Albee. Professional Bowlers Tour telecast live from the Buckeye Lanes in North Olmsted, Ohio. Our tournament leader, here are the pinfalls he's practicing. 22-year-old Andy Nair, a non-winner. Kreitz methodically moving on the approach now.
Kreitz a 232 average for 42 games this week. Mike Albee's opponent 234. The highest by a total field the whole season. Here's Kreitz to retake the lead.
At the last minute, leads by 1. This is sort of a grudge battle because in 1986, Tom won his first PBA title at the Trust Corp PBA National Championship in Toledo. He was top seeded, and he beat the defending champion named Mike Albee.
The love tap, the key shot. Tommy Kreitz, we talked about that medium speed. Watch the action of the 6-pin. It lies down in the channel, jumps up, knocks out the 10. It gives him the lead by 1 pin. And Chris, as you said, both of these players have won the Toledo Trust Corp Championship, but Kreitz won his title by knocking off the champion Albee. They'll both be there next week. Now Kreitz leads by 1, can extend to 11.
He does that. In Toledo, Tom's margin of victory was 6 pins, 190 to 184. And boy, it helps to win one of the big ones, doesn't it? You get an exemption along the way for Firestone, etc.
That's the way, Chris. You're right. At that time, the Toledo Trust Corp Championship winner came. Just converted that 7-pin. I remember when we were in Paris at the Grand Prix, he had the title well in hand. He missed 2 7-pins in a row to lose that tournament. Since then, he has changed his shot to convert spares. A much improved player. Surely we remember the 1985 season, 200,000. He'd like to get cooking this year. He's a red-hot player when he gets striking.
And now he's going to be faced with the 3-pin on the left lane. There's a little of everything today for Mike Albee.
This championship here is working almost like a racing farm. During the week, we saw the early rounds, the early couple of games, high scores on the championship here. Then the middle of the day, after 4 or 5 games had been bowled on them, there was kind of a status quo where it was spare strike, and then back to a lot of strikes near the end.
It's Kreitz in the lead over Albee. We'll be back. Bowled the 7th frame. He left a 10-pin marked with a spare. Continuing to lead by 12. Now he is up for the 8th frame. Eddie Elias, founder of the Professional Bowlers Association and the current commissioner, Joe Antonora.
Here's Kreitz, 8th frame, leads by 12. Wow!
Nelson Burton type strike.
Well, Chris, the story for Albee is he has to get throwing some strikes. He started the match out in good shape, throwing 2 strikes, looking for a big game. Then for the last 5 consecutive frames has filled with spares and has found himself in the arrears by 12 pins, 8th frame, has to make some adjustments, get aggressive. About 10 of them.
That's what he asked for.
Here in the 9th frame. Albee has really struggled on this lane. He has to reach back for something extra.
Found the left lane. Double with that strike in the 9th. Now only 2 pins separating these 2 professionals.
That shot of by director Jim Jeanette shows you that Albee went wide of the second arrow on that shot, got the ball in the 1-2 pocket, and has put some pressure on Kreitz. If you recall, in the errant frames that Albee has had on that lane, he pulled the ball inside the second arrow. Accuracy still the most important element in this sport. Now, can Kreitz answer the challenge of Albee? Leads by 2, strike working, 9th frame.
Two national champions battling, and Kreitz
Fair. Perfect.
Oh, the 2-4. Not the 1-2, as I said. Go down, and it's a spare in the 9th frame.
Scoreboard tells the story. Kreitz, the best he can do is 225 if he strikes in the 10th, 11th, and 12th frames. No matter what he does, he cannot shut out Albee. What a player must think about, and most amateurs don't get in a position like the pros of having to throw strikes in the 10th frames. 10th frame under pressure is to just make one good shot. Make sure your eyes stay on that target. Look at Kreitz, riveted on that second arrow target. Oh yeah, never a doubt. Very confident.
Requires great concentration.
Well, the ability to throw strikes in the 10th, 9th, 10th, and 11th frames in the Professional Bowlers Tour, I believe, is the difference between being a winner and an also-ran on the Professional Bowlers Tour. Both these players have proven they can do it. They both have to do it to stay in the match. Now, Kreitz leads by 2 pins, can extend his lead to 12, but he cannot shut out Albee.
You believe a 10-pin on the left lane? Yes.
With 2:15.
And meanwhile, non-winner Andy Nair, the tournament leader, keeps warming up. That's right. And no left-hander has won here since 1974 when it started. So Kreitz is the right-hander trying to get into that final against Nair. And here's Albee now. Double up, 10th frame.
That statistic will change if Albee strikes here. Andrew Nair, our tournament leader, is a left-hander. If Albee strikes, he wins the match. It will be 2 lefties. Come on, come on, come on! What a shot!
Boy, I got to get Mike down on the farm to call the hogs and cattle. Oh, the Professional Bowlers Tour will continue after. We're not going to go away yet. Okay.
Right now, Albee just has to stay in the building. He ran that shot so far out. He was on lane 21 when he rolled it. On 22, when he rolled it, he ran it all the way out to lane 17. All he has to do is stay in the building behind the foul line. As you watch the bowling tip of the week, only a stupid mistake of falling across the line would eliminate him from the championship round. And there's Lock City right there.
There it is. Mike Albee, 13-time champion, has 1 game to get another one against Andy Nair. And now we're getting ready for 2 left-handers shooting for a total of $41,000. 27 of the winner, 14 the runner-up. Andy Nair, 22-year-old from Milton, Pennsylvania, non-winner against Mike Albee, who's won 13 titles, including 2 PBA national championships, a victory over Kreitz in his last game to get to the final.
You're right, Chris. And Nair has never been in the championship round before. I crossed with him in the 18 games of qualifying here, and he was just almost unbelievable. He was just a little bit short of the all-time record by 45 pins set by the great Earl Anthony. Nair averaged 247, featuring a 300 game. He's never before been in the championship round, and I asked him what he thought about it. He says, I've never even thought about it. He says, I've only dreamed of this. So let's see if his dream of winning a PBA championship can come true. As they are set for action, Albee will start the match.
Andy always having the desire to win that title, always assured of 14,000, but it's the title that both these lefties want.
Albee's going to be awfully, awfully tough to beat. Advantage all Albee right here in the early going.
Leaving a 6-pin on the left lane. Fortunate.
Very so, Chris, as he goes high, avoids the 4-7-6 split. Ends up with an easy spare. Look at that. There's the 4-6-7-10 standing.
That sounds familiar.
I've had a few of those in my lifetime. Albee, a simple spare to start the match, but I'm sure he'd like to start with a quick bunch of strikes to get on a surely nervous Andy Nair.
All right, marking with a spare, and now you got to look at the 5'10", 165-pound, 22-year-old Andrew Nair. That's the way they pronounce it. Practice makes perfect.
My goodness, there's aggression in that young, easygoing man's mind and body. As you see his profile, 5-step delivery, little drag with his left foot, drives through with that pivot step, makes the pro move at the bottom, snaps the wrist, and crushes all 10 pins. Now he goes for an early 10-pin lead, second frame.
Leaving us 6th, the man whose highest finish to this point, 7th, Bowler's Journal in Venice, Florida, and first television appearance. The pressure is on.
2 different types of shoes by Andrew Nair. On his slide foot or right foot, he has some slide cleats which help him dig in. His left foot, he has just a regular shoe.
So the man with 2 regional titles, however, opened with a strike, marked with a spare. Now Albee, who started with a spare, will be shooting it in the second frame. Here he is. If you just joined us, he defeated Tom Kreitz, 233 to 215.
Albee rips the rack. Here's what angle, power, 16 pounds of pro spin will do for you. The ball hits the 1-2, drives the 5 over into the 6-10 area, just saws the whole right side of the rack out. A perfect hit for Albee. Matches even through 2 frames.
Now we have a 3-5 for the left-hander.
Albee, who's just trying to fight his way through lane 21, made a very smooth first 3 steps of that approach, then tried to jump on the shot, and I saw his wrist move. He didn't get the lift on the ball that he wanted. He tried to use extra speed. That was the proper thing, but he has to catch it all. He has to make perfect shots on 21 to stay close in this match.
Stay out, stay out.
Thought he was going to come to the right too far.
That's for sure, the loquacious Albee. Chris, does it help to talk to that ball?
I always do. 50-50.
There you go, Andy Nair.
Tough one, leaving the 7-pin.
An unobliging 7-pin for Nair, as he's really looked good for his first 3 frames. And I crosswind in the first round. As I said, he's #1 right out of the chute, averaging better than 250 his first 6 games, stayed right near the lead all the way, and overtook Albee in the very final and 42nd game last night to lead the tournament by 6 pins. Oh, he missed the 7
Nair. We asked him earlier about the dreams of making this tournament final.
Well, when at the age of 12 in a little 16-lane center back home, we used to watch the tour religiously. And we'd usually practice, and I always used to dream about bowling Earl in the TV pair and carrying a hit in the 10th to win my first title.
Well, realizing a dream, and that's great. Leaving the 2-pin on the left lane from Milton, PA, which is north of Harrisburg, near Williamsport, not far from Bucknell University on the Susquehanna River.
And in his audio tape, he said beating Earl. Of course, he alluded to the great Earl Anthony, who is the greatest left-handed bowler of all time.
All right, Mike Albee is in the lead at this moment. Will be championship game. 2 left-handers going for a title that has never been won by a left-hander. Mike Albee leading by 12. Spear up, shooting in the 4th frame against Andy Nair.
No doubt about it, Albee's ability to hit the right-hand lane, number 22 here at Buckeye Bowling Center in North Olmsted, Ohio. But 21 has been the lane that has stopped him from taking a commanding lead in this match. You look at Albee, little rosin on the ball, wipes a little on his hand. He has some tape wrapped around his ring finger, his left hand. He has either he does no tendonitis or a pulled tendon in that finger, so he's kind of supporting it with tape. Airing out the thumb hole, good pre-shot maneuvers. Can take a big lead over a somewhat shook up Andy Nair. If Albee can strike here, it'll be 22 pins.
All right, now it's 22-year-old Andrew Nair up, and he has a spare working, had an open in the third. Now he's shooting in the fifth. Well, the split is gone, but the 6-10 as Andy shakes his head. Not like it was all week.
Oh, he's pulling the ball a little bit, and he normally didn't do that during the tournament. Avoids the 4-6, 7-10 split, ends up with the 6-10 spare.
There you see Jim and Bonnie Nair, Andy's parents. His uncle and a couple of cousins have come in as well to lend moral support.
Andy going very quickly. Needs to take a little more time to collect his thoughts. A strike here would help.
How could it possibly stand?
The head pin goes to the sideboard. That doesn't do the job on the 10 pin. Andy coming wide. Here's the head pin. Watch the action over here on the right-hand part of your screen. Andy's ball doesn't give him the break. The head pin gets over there. Yes, help me, help me. Doesn't work. Easy spare.
And Bo, all the time in Calgary, I thought Eddie the Eagle Edwards was wobbly. Boy.
Albee knows this is a key shot in the early going. He has a 25-pin lead, and even though it looks like Andy Nair is a little bit shook up and frustrated out there, he can't afford to let Nair get his feet on the ground and really make a late charge. So this is his best lane. This is his best chance right here.
Nope, it's the 7-pin for Mike Albee.
And that 4-letter word was hook by Albee. And it hooked, but didn't knock all 10 pins down. The 7-pin, you'll see a difference in Albee's style here. Is something he's made a change with. Goes with a different ball, a little higher surface friction to slide more. Breaks his wrist back instead of underneath the ball. A little more speed, hopefully converting the 7.
Continuing to mark, Mike Albee. Last win, singles, was 1986.
Our next 4 tournaments, the National Championship in Toledo. Then we go to the King Louis Open in Overland Park. Then on up to Peoria for the True Value Open. And then the Milwaukee Championships, April 2nd from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
And today we reached the halfway point of our 16-city tour with the Professional Bowlers Telecast, 27th year. Again, the call for the hook. So it's Albee in the lead by 24. We'll be back. Andy Nair came up with 2 clutch strikes, one in the 7th, another in the 8th. Mike Albee gets up. He has a strike in the 8th frame as well, continuing to lead by 24 as he's now ready to shoot in the foundation frame. Championship match.
Big shot there, Chris. He really put Nair on the rope. Albee is going at a 229 pace. The best Andrew Nair can do is 225, but he must strike. If Andrew does not strike here or the 10th frame, Albee's the winner. He's still in it. Not only does Andy Nair and his family, Jim and Bonnie Nair, mother and father here, have a vested interest in Andy striking here in the 10th and 11th frames, but also Art Trask, who is the 52nd man on the Firestone bubble. Okay. If Andrew wins this tournament, Trask would be out of the Firestone, Andy in. He needs this shot. He has to strike.
What a baptism of fire in his very first TV appearance as the tournament leader, leaving for the bucket as Jim and Bonnie Nair look on. That'll be one of the spares that left-hander Earl Anthony will be trying to make that spare. The return of it a week from today at 2:30 Eastern. And if he can do it like Andy, okay.
He'll be in business. Andrew has to go back and look at this game. This young man, I bowled with him, has just a nice style. He's going to bowl around 201. 201 if he strikes. All be well in command, but he just didn't take his time. I bowled with him in the tournament. He went quick, ends with a 200 game, and if he just takes his time, he'll be in that championship circle one of these days. So here's Albee just to put a little victory lap on his performance here today. I thought he was the pre-tournament favorite by all the strikes and his experience, and sitting in that number 2 position as a possible 249 game.
And Mike Albee, who thought he was hung at 13 championships, has number 14. Mike Albee. The Professional Bowlers Tour is brought to you by Tandy Computers. There's no better value. ABC's Wide World of Sports presents the WBA World Middleweight Championship. Sambu Kalambe makes his first title defense against former junior middleweight champion, undefeated Mike McCallum. Plus, Kentucky Derby hopefuls square off at the Florida Derby. Both events will be seen live except on the West Coast. It's coming up next on ABC Sports. Mike Albee, 14th TAP championship, 249 to Andy Nair's 200. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports. Final score, 249 to 200.
A promotional fee has been paid to ABC by United Airlines.
The winner is still not determined.